Item 17. Whatever. It's been a long day. Kathy, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein and Commissioner Weisskopf will be joining us shortly. Commissioner Grossberg.
Here.
Vice President Ruttenberg.
I'm here.
President Kaplan.
I'm here. We can start. Are there any additions to the agenda?
I have none.
I don't have an addition, but I'd like to say something. Is this an appropriate time? That I'd like to compliment Rebecca and Amalia for the excellent presentation they did last night at the city.
Now it's not the appropriate time.
Then I won't say that.
Okay. And yes, you guys did a great job. Yes, it's an appropriate time. Go ahead.
I agree. Okay.
Little way. Okay. Next, were you done? I didn't mean to.
I am now.
Okay. Flood recovery efforts. Did I take it that's Ms.
So,
Reddy?
we are going to introduce Deborah Roddy, correct? Who is a resident of Highland Park, and Deborah had sent the board a couple of different emails during the was it the July 11th flood?
Yep.
Yeah, and had some thoughts and observations and comments I think that you wanted to share with us regarding maybe thinking about policies going forward in when we have the flood type issues. As the park district, we certainly, safety is always number one. And I think that Deborah and I, we've certainly engaged in that, and Brian, you as well, from a park district standpoint. So in the immediacy of it, getting kids to and from programs and making sure we're posting closures and whatnot for our residents is a priority. And that's pretty common practice with a lot of park districts that because we look to see what other agencies were doing. But I think you have some further thoughts for us that you'd like to share this evening. So we thought it best that we invite Deborah to come and give us your thoughts, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Excuse my back, everyone. Or
You can sit
Why
in
don't
that
you
chair
sit
right
there?
there,
excellent. This one.
and yep, and then
That one's good. That's the hot seat.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I am a lifelong resident of Highland Park. And so I would actually like to start to express my thanks to the Park District of Highland Park for enhancing my life in so many ways. From the time I was 2 years old onward, I have made use of almost all the facilities, definitely all of the open spaces. I think that the Park District of Highland Park overall does a great job of maintaining them, manicuring them, expanding them, planning for the future. And I want to thank the members who sit on the commission, because you're members of the community who obviously find it to be as important as most of our residents do. It really enhances Highland Park's legacy, and it attracts a lot of people to our community as well. So I'm going to have some criticisms. That would be something that would pull me out on a lovely night like tonight. But I don't want you to infer that the criticisms are for everything, but that I was very concerned about some of the safety issues that arose with regard to the last flood on July 11th. I brought with a little movie that I made very hastily without comments or anything. Hopefully the music's turned off because I didn't put music in, it just sort of came with the program. You'll notice it says July 15th. So that's several days after the flood, when most of the city had receded. And I was looking forward to finding a place to go out and look around, take some photos, which I like to do, and look for the things that I really love, like the damselflies that are up there. And what I'm going to do is, rather than drag you through that movie, it's very brief. It has several shots of what was going on at the park that day. It's got a few comments on it. If the pictures don't speak 1,000 words, some of the comments on there will, and that can just run the whole time that I'm speaking with you. So you can see what the park looked like on that date. I don't know if anyone went over to be there. But what I did is I started to look for a place that day on the 15th where I could go for a walk I checked websites in Cook County, I checked websites in Lake County, and most of the sites that I went to said our park, our facilities, our trails are severely impaired, probably best to wait for another time. It had instructions and warnings. That's not what happened when I went to the Highland Park Park District. I looked everywhere on your website for how we were doing, what the impact had been on our community, and I really didn't see anything that would apprise me of what I would find when I went to Fink Park. When we're looking at pictures like this that have water, this is not just water. It's not just rainwater. This is sewage. This came out from over the banks of the Skokie River and littered everywhere. If there were places that were dry, like the dog park was dry by the 15th, and they're mostly dry, and there were people making use of the dog park, every blade of grass at that dog park and anywhere where the grass was clean was covered with organic silt. Silt from the river that we know includes sewage. It was not a healthy environment. The place was stinking. You would think that would drive most people away, but it actually didn't. I saw a lot of families with small children walking and playing in the little playground for the kiddies that's a little bit higher than some of the other spaces. Some of the kids would want to wander into the water. There was no warning either on the website or at the park. There's your park regulations that are barely sticking up out of there. Nothing saying that there's danger that lurks below the water, that they could fall into a hole that they didn't realize was there, that there could be something sharp, that they shouldn't wade in the water. And we do know from other places in Highland Park, the kids got into boats, they wandered in some of the flooded areas, and they're not smart enough to know that this can be very unhealthy. And when we're talking about that, we should take another step for the other people that I'm very concerned about. And these are the people who work for the Park District of Highland Park. These are the people who had to go out and either assess the areas, fix the areas, unclog places where water would, go, or whatever it is. I don't know that you did anything about them. I don't know if you warned them about the bacterial issues that are related to being in this area. There's a picture in here of a bench, and that bench is literally covered with organic material. Now, someone at the Park District had to go and remove that material. But I don't know if that person was apprised about, the bacteria that could be associated with it, how they should clean up afterward, how they should stay healthy. Now, for those of you who read my email to Brian Kaplan, I did mention that I went there. Oh, that's a nice picture of sludge and algae. I went there on a day where I was basically over a cold. I was fine, basically. 2 days later, I was sick basically the whole summer. I took 2 courses of antibiotics. Do I know it was from visiting Fink Park? No. I mean, my doctor doesn't know. There's no way to ascertain it, but I can tell you that in my whole life I've never taken 2 courses of antibiotics. And then it started very shortly after I had been there. And after I'd been in a place that had stench, organic material. So when I got home, I said, well, someone should have warned me about what I would find when I got there. And I still thought about someone that I saw who was pushing someone who seemed to be incapable of breathing on their own down the road there. And I was wondering whether or not that person should have been advised that they might be subject to some bacteria while they were there. But I got home and I said, well, I think I'm going to have to contact the rec center and the Park District of Highland Park and find out certain things that I really hadn't thought about as a resident. Because I figured I was more worried about my friends who lost basically everything in their home on Taylor Street and over in my old neighborhood of Sunset Park. But it dawned on me after I was here is what have we done to protect our residents? So I wrote a letter to Brian Kaplan and I raised those questions. Additionally, I raised questions that I had that were just about the flood in general. I used to be the chairman of the Design Review Commission, and we reviewed the construction of the recreation center. And one of the questions we asked at the time was, it's right next to the Skokie River. What will happen if it floods? I remember some answers of what that were given, but I don't know what the truth was, and I'm not sure that anyone in Highland Park knows. I still don't know what happened to the rec center. I don't know how much more money this flood cost us, what we can do to avert future costs, because as we know from everything we're reading, weather is not becoming kinder. To the contrary, it seems like we're in for a lot of weather issues in the future. What are we doing as a park district to preserve these fantastic assets as well? So I'm looking at two things. I'm looking at how we responded. And by the way, the only response, or the initial response that I got was, well, we did a very good job. We got all the kids so that all the kids and their family knew where they were. All the campers were okay. Well, the campers are what, 1,800 campers or whatever it is. There are 30,000 people living in Highland Park and visitors to Highland Park who I think could have used some very simple, basic information that could have been on a website. There are also places all over the city, Cook County, and elsewhere that I went in the next month, because I do spend a lot of time outdoors, where there were signs saying, you know, we have problems with our trails. Don't go down this trail. I showed you a couple pictures of a trail that someone, if they had started on, with if they were impaired in their walking, would have had a very hard time when they got there. Plus, there wasn't a convenient way to get back because it was flooded in between in the spongy area of Fink Park. So I don't think we did as good a job as the response that I initially got that patted us on the back saying what a wonderful job we did. I think we were far off the mark. And I don't think that taking care of the kids and the campers, there should be procedures for that, which I assume there were, and that's why we did such a great job. But I don't think we were really prepared for a devastating flood. Now we've had one, and I don't think it'll be the last one we're going to see. And I would like to think that the Park District, instead of saying, wow, phew, that really went well, would sit back, take a look at some of the pictures that I've sent you, take a look at some of the messages that I'm sending you, and say, how can we do this better and be prepared so that it's not a matter of pulling it together later. And just by way of example, you have access to almost everyone in Highland Park. The city of Highland Park has access to almost everyone. You can get a message out in a heartbeat over a phone or a message. The city of Highland Park eventually, but it was not prepared, eventually said, included some of the health risks related to floodwater content that was published by the Lake County Health Department. And this included tips about how to stay safe and after flooding has occurred. And I shared with the commission some of those statements, which include don't attempt to enter or cross flooded streams or rivers. Little very simple things. Things can look calm on top and you can drown below. Avoid contact. Floodwater contain organisms that may cause disease. Prevent children and pets from playing in or drinking water. There were so many dogs at that dog park that day because people were eager to get out of their homes. But someone should have told them, you bring your dog here, maybe your dog's going to die because your dog's really in contact with everything that's on that ground. So I've come here tonight in the spirit of saying, I've worked for public safety for most of my life. I was the former chief legal officer at Underwriters Laboratories. I was the former chief administrative officer. I had 7 divisions of the company that reported to me. I know how things can be pulled together. I am more than happy to sit with anyone who wants to create something that will work better. But I'm not happy to think that we'll have this again and again, and that people like me will either get sick. We don't even know the other people who may not know why they got sick. a lot more could be done. And before I close, one of the things we do in Highland Park, both at the Park District and other places, maybe not here, I hope not, is give people an opportunity to say what they want, and everybody says, thank you very much, but there's no response. I would like some response. I think that we're all entitled to some response, and I think that here it is, in October, I still don't know if the recreation center flooded. I still don't know what the costs are. I don't know what you're doing. And I'm just one resident, and I think I speak on behalf of a lot of residents. We look to you to be our stewards. We're grateful for you, for the work that you do, but give us some information, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that was a very nice presentation. Thank you. And I would like to take you up on your offer to generate a package of responses. I think we
Well, I
should do
think
that if we
in
have.
conjunction with PDERMA and our safety committee.
Mm-hmm.
But not, yeah, but I think we shouldn't just limit, I'm sorry for being late, but I don't think we should just limit it to flooding issues. I mean, really, all act of God type of things.
Or Korea.
So, no, but seriously, like for snowstorms.
We have many events covered in our safety manuals. This flooding, the messaging of it, I don't know that we have that level of notification in our manuals, but we'll review.
Yeah, you should have
Yeah.
a playbook, basically.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we
We
have
do have a
playbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to go back and,
Well, do we have a committee that's looking at those, or?
yeah, we have a safety committee.
Well, I
So-
think, I mean, again, I was late and I apologize, but I think that, we should take another look at our playbook for all types of natural, act of gods type of issues. And so we have contingency plans so that there's plans that can be implemented immediately, that we don't, and that committee can come up with that. I don't, it's not, I think, we're not the only community that does this, so I'm sure there's templates that we can look at to do that. I mean,
The one thing I wanted to add, the one thing that hit home with me was your point about that the weather's not going to be kinder to us. And I think that strikes all of us who believe in global warming and the effects of whatever is going on this earth, that these are going to become more frequent, especially if they don't dredge the river and they don't, take mitigating action. This is not going to become less frequent. So having a great action plan is a great plan.
I mean, after the microbursts, did we have a plan for a real issue? Remember the microbursts, 15 years ago, 17 years ago? I mean, do we have a plan in action if something like that happened again?
I would have to go and look unless someone knows off the top of their head. But we've got safety manuals that address a lot of disasters. So
Yeah.
we'll just, we review it. I think it gets reviewed annually, but taking into consideration everything that's happening with more frequent.
I mean,
Of
Kathy, when the
current
microburst, how many
suns.
trees did we lose at Sunset Park, Kathy, do you remember?
You probably know better than
Yeah, hundreds, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When was the last time it was reviewed?
I
Yeah,
can't answer that.
yeah. All right, let's look at
We'll
it.
find
But
out.
Let's reconvene
Yeah.
the safety.
Can I
But
say
the
one other
safety
thing?
committee meets monthly,
Yeah.
so we have all the processes in place to take another look and make sure that we've got everything.
So
that we
my
need.
suggestion is that you guys take a look at it, have the committee come back to a committee, a workshop meeting, and invite Deborah to come, and then we can hear another presentation, see and if you want to reach out to Deborah during that time,
Sure.
that'd be great. Yeah.
Can I say something? I do want to, I don't know if it really needs defense, but I do want to emphasize that Commissioner Kaplan's response to this, that the most important thing was taking care of those kids that were there during the involvement of the storm. So I don't want you to minimize the importance of getting all of those kids home safely, because everything else is a workshop meeting or money if it needs to or whatever, but a person's life is invaluable. So I don't want to minimize his initial response, I read the entire letter and I read his response, and I was proud of our staff's efforts to get those kids and parents, worried parents, feeling good about our procedures to get their kids back to them safely.
And I will say, our parks crew, it took days for them to get through every park evaluating damage and looking at high-risk areas first. I think that we have procedures in place for all of these disasters. I think where we were not as proactive is what you're suggesting, is that our notices on our website were more relative to if facilities were open or closed, and not talking about high floodwaters in parks and paths not being accessible. So I think that's really something that we need to hone in a little more on and add that to our procedures in our safety manuals as it relates to some of these natural occurrences.
And I will say, Terry, to piggyback what you're saying, is the Park District over the years has done a tremendous job with just what you addressed. Because, we have these 500-year rains every couple of years now, and I know that when my daughter was an ice skater, it always happens where trailways floods,
Yeah.
and people get stranded at Centennial Ice Rink, and there was always a plan of action to get those kids out of Centennial, because that's always the first area that floods, and the first people get stranded is in Centennial Ice Rink. We've known that. It's happened over the years, and over the was my daughter's 21, so over 15 years that she's been ice skating with her, they always took care of those kids at Centennial, make sure they got out of there before that road became unpassable. So this is something that they've learned from experience.
Thank you.
Any more?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll come back.
Is anyone ever going to tell me whether or not the rec center?
No.
No,
No.
No,
did not.
parking lot was pretty flooded, but.
The rec center's in a bathtub, isn't it? Got a tremendous system that they built when they built it, because it's right next to the river. So there's pumps. Is there a pump system there or something? There's like a lot of engineering went into
Mitch?
creating that so it doesn't flood.
Well, yeah, twice a week.
Yeah.
We missed that part, but I was the chairman of the Design Review Commission when that came up, and that was the first question everyone asked, is this neck very close to the Skokie River? And we were told it would survive. I didn't know it.
Yeah, when I was told when it was built, it was basically the foundation was built like a bathtub, so it was to protect the foundation from any. Mitch is shaking his head, but it's kind of built like that. So we've had a lot of rains, and it's always survived. So it's the engineering. Whoever designed it did a good job.
Not Williams?
I think Williams did do that, but
They were the architect,
They were the
the
architect.
engineers were the,
yeah, whoever did it did a great
Survivors.
job of engineering it.
that was probably Gil.
Oh, okay. We will move on to park operation, golf operations, construction update. I assume it's a monument.
Right.
I'm sorry. Here, have your sheet.
You don't need it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, since I presented last, crews at the Pogo site have been focusing on finishing up the shell of the building and really focusing on underground work and site work so that we're prepping the site for colder weather, make sure that we get all of that weather-dependent work out of the way to focus on the interior portions of the building. So the water main went in. I'm just going to flip through some pictures of stuff of what's been going on at the site. You can see some underground plumbing has gone on, the installation of the drains in the building. This is conduit. You can see the transformer in the background has been installed. So electric lines to the building are in, and I was told that we should have power to the building in the next week or two. You can see these are the bases for the lights in the parking lot. There are 2 lights that are going on in the parking lot. These are kind of hard pictures to see, but that black is the waterproofing for the shell of the building. So the picture on the bottom right is the west side of the building, and then that picture up at the top is actually that between the retaining wall and where the building starts, so it's about 2 feet. So you can see the insulation and the waterproofing there. Can I make this big, actually? There we go. Okay. So for the parking lot, we stabilized this parking lot. As you all know, the soils here are slightly questionable because of the past use of this site. So we had to take some extra steps to stabilize the upper parking lot. So this is a proof roll. So you see the semis work going back and forth, making sure that the soil's not sinking, to make sure that the stabilization that they did was successful.
So if the semi would have sunk into the ground, you know that it wasn't stable?
If you see, well, it's not, sunk is probably not the right word, but like if there's a depression.
So it's
or
not
is
like
it-
quicksand or something like that?
Right, no,
Okay.
no.
Yeah, there's only 3 shown in the picture. There were 4 in the
That's success. That's progress.
every 5%. It was an old one.
No, everyone was safe in the proof roll. So the parking lot is good to go. It's been stabilized, and they're preparing for to apply stone to prepare for the asphalting and their portions of concrete in the upper parking lot.
The asphalting will come next in the, when?
The asphalting should start in the next 2 weeks or so.
Before the plants close.
Before the what?
Well, the asphalt plants close.
Yes, it's all weather dependent, so that's why we're trying to get this done sooner than later. So, yeah, that is coming up. You can see the fire hydrant, so the underground plumbing, and then roofing. So that was something that started most recently. They were putting the angles to put these are the bar joists where the roof sits on. So I put this picture, I wanted to try to capture this semi was so long. It's shocking that it even made it up there. But you can see it was carrying these large bar joists that were placed to set the roof
Can you go
on
back to the
top.
last slide?
Sure.
So is that the south elevation?
That is the south elevation.
So it looks like a one-story building right there.
That's right.
It does look, it looks much smaller than it
Yeah,
is
it
when you
does.
go there and see it in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it appears to be a one-story building from the south elevation, but when you're on the north elevation is when you see both floors. So you can see half of the bar joist being set there with the crane. Nice
So, wait,
image.
so this is on the top floor?
Yeah,
And the entire floor deck was installed between the first and second floors?
Yep. Yep, so this is the second floor.
I'm just envisioning the progress.
Sure. So this is the second floor looking south, and you can see that they're starting to put on the roof.
What's the material?
I want to say, I will get back to you.
Okay.
I don't want to. It's like a metal of some sort.
Okay.
Do you know? Does anyone, Jeff, know? Remember? Okay. I'll get back to you on that. So they move pretty fast on the roofing.
It's amazing.
So we're making really good progress. So that is the second floor.
Wow.
And then you can see that they're also started working on the north, the grading of the north side of the building, and then also they were putting stone down today for those few parking spaces that are going to go on the north side of the building. So looking ahead, like I said, we're going to be finishing up the parking lots, so putting stone down in preparation for the asphalt and concrete. They're finishing up curbing work that has to happen before they put the stone in. So just a lot of those finishing touches, patching of the precast concrete, capping of the second floor. The capping of the second floor makes it more of like a finished look for that second floor. And then also finishing up the underground work on the lower level so that they can pour the concrete for the finished floor of the first floor. And then onto the financial report. So you can see we continued with some construction costs. And then we have additional contingency costs, which are both, consider both the value engineering and the additional costs for the added plumbing vents, the asbestos survey, and then also the asbestos abatement that was required prior to demolition.
The asbestos was because of the facility that used to be there, right?
That's right. Before you demolish a building, you have to conduct the asbestos.
So when's the outside work going to be completed?
I would say we're aiming for fall, like, or November-ish. I'm thinking fall.
Okay, so
November,
hopefully,
November,
so that's when the leaves will be coming down, so our
That's
neighbors.
right. So, and we've, per, I think it was your suggestion, we've reached out to the city to let them know about our landscaping plan, just a reminder in case they start getting calls with the leaves coming down. I was there today, the leaves are still green, and so we're still full foliage out there. But we are in the process of purchasing the landscaping, and we'll be hopefully planting those trees this fall.
And have you heard from any complaints from any neighbors? Or anything? Great.
No. And I'll confirm when that site work, when we're going to be exclusively inside of the building when I come back next week, or
Okay.
next month.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next report is Sunset Valley Golf Course renovation project update.
Thank you. Let's see. You got it? Okay. No, that other one. Perfect. All right, so we are so close to being finished. 2 more holes left and done. 2 more holes, 7 and 1, and that'll be it. And the great thing is everything that is seeded has germinated. So 8 is germinating, 18 is germinating
18?
since Sunday.
Since Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, so if we get a couple inches of rain tonight, I mean, we'll be fine. Nothing's going. I'm pretty confident nothing's going to wash away. So it's only going to help us.
We'll put back the work on 1 and 7.
Maybe a day or 2, but I didn't want them to start seeing it today because I didn't want to lose any. It'd be waste. So if it's a couple days, it's a couple days, but we'll be fine. I mean, the forecast for the next 14 days is the high 60s, low 70s, and the nighttime temps are still in the 50s for the next 2 weeks. So that's perfect for growing grass. Perfect.
Right.
So if we can, for the next till the middle of November, if we still have great weather, I'm very, very confident we'll establish the last couple holes very well. But you know, we did hole 9 like 10 days ago, and it is almost full, and everything's germinated on the green, everything's germinated on the fairway. The rough takes a little bit longer, the bluegrass takes a little bit longer to germinate. It takes about 10 to 14 days. The bluegrass can or the bentgrass can germinate in 5 days, so the bentgrass goes very, very quick. So another great thing about the last hole number 1, is we have 5 semi-loads of sod left in our allowance. So we can pretty much sod the whole surrounds on the whole fairway, green, tee, so it's going to look beautiful right away. So
Which holes is that going in?
1.
1. Oh, one will look done.
I know. So actually, so we got that squared away pretty good. And we did, Rick and I, he helped me, and we did a great job of saving the most of our allowance to last, just in case of this situation. So it's going to be perfect. And I just want to reiterate, like, I can't thank the board, Liza, Kathy, Brian, enough about everything, how this project turned out, because you
Knock
guys
on
did it the
wood.
right way. Everything was done, knock on wood, but everything was done the right way, from erosion control measures, where we had to put erosion control. I mean, it's, knock on wood, perfect. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. So I got some pictures.
You've done an amazing job.
Yeah.
Some pictures to go through. So this is our signature hole on 4.
Crazy.
We mowed this yesterday. We got everything mowed up. So, and this is not even a month since growing grass over there. and then the rock wall right there. This is taken from, I'm on the other side. I'm like kind of standing in 12 fairway right there, because that front bunker's in 12. And then that front bunker, that greenside bunker where the grass is growing up through the straw, that's actually going to be a fescue area. So that'll grow up, and that'll kind of be the border, the backdrop for that fescue bunker right there.
Weren't there bushes or something between the two?
There was nothing
Oh, no,
there.
yeah.
There was nothing there, so we put that bunker there to kind of protect that tee box from the shots on 12. Here's 13.
There's our elm tree.
Yeah, there's our elm tree.
Yeah.
We found
Yeah.
beautiful elm.
Yeah. When I give tours, when I walk around the course, basically everywhere on the course you can see that elm tree. It's so prominent everywhere. It's amazing.
It's amazing because it was perfectly pruned up. Mother Nature just pruned it for us perfectly, and it grew up nice.
You can see that tree from almost everywhere on the course.
So this is 13, and we mowed this yesterday, and that was seeded, I want to say, after September 15th. So not even a month. And it's looking like this already. So this is, can anybody tell me what hole this is? This is
It
before.
looks like, this is 12?
This is 12.
Yeah.
And that's after.
Wait, we go back? Before?
Before?
Oh, right, got it, yeah.
A or B?
Yeah, that's after. It's a little bit, I don't know if you can't see from back here, but there's that large fairway bunker on the left now, and the fairway kind of serpentines through the hole. So you have to be more strategic with your shot making abilities.
Great.
So last workshop meeting, on the picture on the left is what I showed you last workshop meeting on September 12th. On the right is yesterday.
It's crazy.
It's like watching paint dry.
You know, the grass grows greener on the other side.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bobbling.
Yeah.
This is 2, so we're mowing the approach on 2. Daniel on the right. On the picture on the left, Daniel is mowing the approach, and then George is mowing the green. And then Harry is mowing the fairway, 2 fairway. And it's all coming in pretty nice. So for the project as a whole, we're right in on budget. So far, through August, the billing is around $2,700,000. We've spent some of our contingency. We have a little bit of our contingency left to spend, but overall we'll be right on budget, probably a little bit under budget for the project.
Remarkable.
That's great.
I mean, and it's, I mean, Cal, you've been out there pretty much and Brian, I mean,
Yeah.
does it get better every time you guys come out?
It's amazing. I go out there every Sunday morning. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And everybody I've talked to is just blown away. I've had residents. I had a former resident from LaGrange, I think, used to play here when he was a kid, and he's just stopped by, and he heard we were renovating. He had to stop by, and he was amazed by it, just blown away.
I mean, on Sunday, I walked with Ed Sherman, who's a golf writer, and he has a show on the Score, 670 on Saturday mornings, a golf show, which he's...
Somebody famous once, didn't he?
What? Yeah, but he said that he's sending me articles. Actually, sent me the first one today about marketing ideas, because he said the days of just opening up a golf course and just thinking people are going to come because it's open, gone. And we were talking with Ryan about things that, because we're now starting to create the business plan for the course. Really not next year, but really we're talking about 2019. And there's a lot of cool ideas that we were just talking about with Ed that he's seeing are being done at other courses around the country. So I'm really excited about those type of marketing activities that we can do. And we'll hone those in as we go on, but they're just idea right now. And again, anybody sees any articles or something like that about the trends and how things passing along to staff, so we can get that and try to figure out, starting in 2019, how we're going to market this
So
club.
you'll forward what he
Yeah, just send me
Okay.
one.
Great.
I mean, like, one of the things he was saying, one of the things that we have at this course that, one of the trends is trying to shorten the games. I mean, shorten the time you play. And so instead of playing 18 holes, and you don't necessarily have time for 9 holes, is do 6, 6, and 6. This course doesn't really lend itself to that, but we have a great place at 7 where you could play 6+1. So we could say, for example, we could charge for 6+1, like you throw one extra hole in there and just charge from that, and that would be like someone could spend an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and a half if they're coming home from work. And they say, I just want to play 7 holes, but I don't want to pay for 9 holes because I don't have time for 9 holes. But there's a lot of different things to try to get the traffic there that that people are doing, because people are different today. With cell phones and everything, it's hard to allocate 4 hours to play golf. People are working harder and different things, but productivity is such higher that we have to think out of the box, so to speak, to try to make this so it's just not thinking, okay, you play 9, play 18, and that's it. And lastly, as we talked about, is promoting youth golf and getting the kids involved. And actually, he came up with a really interesting idea. Now we'll pass it along. Is that right now our pricing program is that basically at 18 years old, you're an adult. Well, a lot of 20-somethings don't make a lot of money, and it's expensive for them to play golf. So like country clubs, for example, they have pricing for under 35 members. So it's cheaper to belong to a country club at 25, 30. Until 35, you're not paying full rate. So maybe we should think about the 20-somethings and try to say, people who 22 or 23 years old, not making a tremendous amount of money, but still want to play golf, maybe making something more advantageous or easier for them to play and afford to play golf. So there's a lot of different things that we can do for hybrids. So it's just not one size fits all anymore. We have to be a little more aggressive to be able to attract more people to the course. But we could talk about that. We have a year to talk about that, but it was really interesting. Because I was a captive audience. I spent about an hour and a half with him walking the course. So I had to listen for an hour and a half to all his ideas, which was great. But it was, he's very excited. He thought it looked beautiful.
That's great.
Last night, the golf course came up at the city council meeting.
Yep.
And so, I don't know where they came up with the idea that it wouldn't be open at all in 2018, but, so I just wanted to, you can just ballpark it. I think you've done it before.
Yeah.
But now we've come a certain distance, because there was still an if about what happened this fall.
Sure.
But things are looking good. So let's say we have a good spring, like everything is just good.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is your timeline for a good spring? And what is your timeline for a lousy spring in terms of opening?
A lousy spring would be August 1. August 1
So
would
that's
be...
like worst case scenario.
Yeah, that would be probably worst case scenario. Now, best case scenario would still be probably towards the middle to end of July. You don't want to push it, get too aggressive with it, because once you open, and if you ever see turf decline from all the cart traffic, you can't close it for a week. You can't go back on it and say, oh, we're starting to see turf decline from all this wear from the cart traffic. We need to close it, or just from playability traffic. So I think we'll know once we see all the roots develop, and we'll take some soil samples to see where we're at. But best case scenario, middle to end July. I would like to see us maybe do a media day. We talked about doing maybe a soft opening first, to invite some media members to come out and play the course, and as a marketing tool. But best case scenario would be middle to end July. But Cal can play July 4th if he wants.
I'm putting there next week. The question I have. No, I'm just joking. The question.
No, you're not.
The question I have is the drainage that we have going from Pogo through the course. This is our first rain we had. We had that inch rain.
Yep.
How did the drainage work? Because I know
Great. Everything's worked great. The drainage is going to work great throughout the entire course. The issue that we'll have for the rest of the time is when the canal gets out. It gets out. But that's why we're a golf course. We in a floodplain, because that's our responsibility, is to capture all that water so it doesn't go into any residents' neighborhoods. That's our mission. So. But we have a system in place. Once the canal recedes, it gets off all the playing surfaces fast, and that was our mission, and we accomplished that. So thank you.
That's great.
So real quick, I got a surprise. So we found this.
Oh, the arrowhead.
Cool.
So I'll pass this around. This is authentic.
That thing is perfect.
Wow.
Perfect.
I gotta see this
Absolutely
again.
perfect.
That is awesome.
Where'd you find it?
I don't know. They just when they were
took a
when
picture?
they're when they were digging around, one of the shapers found it. He knows what to look for. He's found several at other courses.
But this thing's just like
and
beautiful.
it's amazing because it's perfect shape. There's not a scratch on it.
That's incredible.
All right, we have to come up with a story about that one, too.
Put it in a little shadow box.
I know.
We should put it somewhere.
We're gonna put it in the clubhouse. We're gonna put a shadow box and put it in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's great.
I'm learning.
It's in my pocket.
Yeah, I know. What else have you found out there? Anything else interesting besides the wagon?
Yeah, you had the wheelbarrow thing.
We had that.
Old Joe
There's nothing
Clark's.
been else of that significant, but that is pretty amazing how perfect it is.
That is so unbelievable.
It's not even that fragile.
Yeah.
No.
And
And that was actually used. I did research.
Yeah, it's cool.
If it was white, that was more of like a tribal arrowhead, but that one is for hunting.
Huh.
That was used for hunting. But I don't know what tribe was in this area. Does anybody know? What was it? Potawatomi.
Was the Skokie a tribe? Or Skokie? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
look it up.
That's pretty.
Everyone's got a computer in there.
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if they were moving dirt somewhere, and it's
If I go out to the course, I'm going to be looking in the corners for those.
yeah.
They're all covered now.
Can I move some of the turf?
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to come out, just let me know.
Yeah. A divot. Oh, look.
Thanks, Ryan.
An arrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Not as exciting as Pogo, but still good.
Yeah.
Skokie Riverwoods Master Plan.
It's right there. It's
Amalia, didn't you find some bone of a unknown animal?
An animal and old china from
Yeah.
Yeah.
No hotel.
The bone and the teacup and the saucer are in my office. The
I did
bone's
see that.
How can you
Oh.
see, does it say Moraine Hotel on it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I don't have any handouts, sorry. Okay.
You
Thanks,
did
Ryan.
popcorn coasters last year.
Yes, I have previously given out things, so not tonight. So the last time we talked about Skokie River Woods, I think that was earlier this year, and I mentioned that we were beginning a master planning process to provide access to the restoration work that we had done. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about our progress in that this evening. So for the past year, we worked with Hay & Associates to look at the Skokie River Woods property to create public access that would be cost-effective and also honor and protect the environmental beauty that we've created, the wetlands and the habitat areas. The work that they did, we did many site visits, and they looked at topography, and we did our wetland delineation, and they have developed with us 3 options, and one that we have preferred, which we're calling the Gateway Plan, to introduce public accessibility into the property. We have a couple of things that we're working under here. We are obligated from our intergovernmental agreement with the City of Highland Park and Lake County Forest Preserve District to provide public access. There was also an Open Lands Trust grant that came from IDNR that helped to purchase the property. So we are starting to reach out to those agencies, and we did get concurrence from the IDNR on this proposed trail that I'm going to show you as being acceptable to satisfy our Open Land Trust grant. And we've reached out to the City of Highland Park, and that is with staff to discuss getting their concurrence or their consensus on this plan. So we presented this plan to them as well. In order to develop the plan, we have applied for Chi-Cal funding toward half of the cost of development. We have budgeted $300,000 in capital for next year for this project, so we asked them for essentially half of that cost. We should be hearing in the near future whether we've been successful in that regard or not. So just to give a little bit of information about the current conditions, you're well aware, I'm sure, of the adjacencies here to the country club, to the open space that's the Golf Dome. And the potential for linkages between Park Avenue and Route 22. We also have an existing trail that runs along the east side of that property, along the east side of the Skokie River Woods, between Skokie River Woods and the Golf Dome, essentially. It is a very degraded maintenance path. Nonetheless, it is there, and we asked our consultants whether we could possibly use that pathway in order to be more cost-effective and also more sustainable, so that we didn't have to create new pathways. At the top of the, well, kind of in the middle, I guess, on the east side, we have the Public Works facility. So there is limitations in how far north you can go that way along that path. It ends approximately where the Public Works facility begins. And of course, the property is well within the floodplain of the Chicago River, and I'll talk in a moment about our wetland delineation and how that impacts what we are trying to do. So you've seen this slide before. These are the kinds of habitats and creatures that we are trying to protect with this initiative. And we asked our consultants whether we could create valuable public access without damaging our wetlands, in fact, without bifurcating or going through them, and still give people the experience of the wetland and being able to see what we'd accomplished. So in front of you is the gateway path option that we are suggesting and recommending that we go ahead and construct. This has been costed out by Hay & Associates and would fall within our budget. The main feature of this is that it carries people from the Golf Dome area along that existing trail, which would be improved to be a multi-use path for bicycles and pedestrians. There would be accessible parking, and this would carry them forward up to that red square where there would be a overlook for the wetland. So it's a very unique opportunity in this area to stand above and look down on wetland, open waters. It's very cool. They'd be able to, observe birds and just have that kind of passive enjoyment. And also that connecting node, the red square, does serve in the event that we had access to adjacent properties as a connecting node. So there is another plan that would carry people from that connecting node across the country club property to connect up with the east, the north-south trail on the east side. So it was meant to be there just in case. And if not, it is a destination at which we are able to do some programming. There's meant to be seating in that connecting node. And you see the line going out over the edge there is our overlook. So we're imagining Heller staff being able to program for wetland programs. People come out to do bird watching, and just be able to really experience that wetland in an interesting and new way. We would also be doing some improvements for pedestrian access. There's a new sidewalk that would come along from the Golf Dome parking lot, carrying around to this sort of new entranceway we would create, where there would be an accessible parking stall. And that's planned to be paved impervious pavement, as is the connecting node toward the north. And then you can see where the trail takes off from there. We'd put a ballard there so that vehicle traffic would not be able to pass through, but the ballard could be dropped in case the city needed maintenance access behind there. And we have spoken to city staff, Public Works, to get their concurrence on using that right-of-way. There would be a little bit of interpretive signage down at the opening and then up, of course, at the connecting node. And I would ask if you have any questions.
Well, how long is the path?
The path is about 1,000 feet long. It ends just short of the Public Works building,
And how wide?
10 feet wide.
Okay.
Yep. So we're going to take the existing path, grind it, and pave over the top of it. As you may be aware, we're working with a landfill situation here as well. We've been in touch with the Lake County Environmental Services people who monitor the cap on that, and they are fine with the methodology we've shown them, as including the overlook. We talked to them about how we would construct that, and they do not have a problem with us putting pilings into that area
And when are you looking at starting?
next year, next spring. We still need to reach out to Lake County Forest Preserve District for their consensus as well.
Is there any way we're going to have connection to Route 22?
This plan does not call for that. We did look at an option to carry through across the property. It was well in excess of our budget. And we still continue to feel that perhaps if we could keep from fragmenting the land, that would be in the best interest. But the plan exists.
Is there any way that you could have access via the city's public works property
We
through
did-
this point?
We did look at that briefly. It's not a very safe or aesthetic pathway if you've ever gone up that far. There are a lot of trucks that are, large trucks that are in there moving in and out for their maintenance. Their salt dome is back in there. While we did look at it, we did not ask Hay to pursue it.
And their property ends at the edge of this, so that they don't have any unimproved property up in that area that we could use, is what I think you're saying.
That's right.
Okay. What are we doing how are we surfacing the path?
We're going to use asphalt, just for cost purposes. But there, as I said, there is some element of pervious pavers in the parking and in the connection zone.
Have we looked at that material we used at Central Park? The one at the edge of the lake? There's that porous, almost porous asphalt. I don't know
asphalt.
what you call the material.
I'll make a note. I think it was priced out and was out of our price range, but I'll make a note.
Okay, you talked about the parking. You're talking about the golf,
Learning center.
yeah. Are we talking about expanding that parking, or are you just talking about using the eastern end of that?
Just using it. Yes.
Yeah, so there's no talk of
No.
change. And the existing path you're talking about is the one that's east of the river?
East of the Skokie River Woods property.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's west of the river.
West of the river.
Oh, there's a-
It's east, it's west, the west side of the golf dome. Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
West side of the golf dome.
There's
yeah,
the
can we,
golf-
I need just to get my bearings.
Sure.
on
There's
this
the
for
golf
just-
dome in the lower right hand, and the yellow line is the trail.
So when you
And
go up
that
to-
is on top of that existing.
when you go up to the hill to the golf dome, that's to the left.
Got it. That's completely not what I was thinking.
Okay.
Got it. And you said 1,000 feet, am I right, is that something like a half a mile or a little bit more?
3 football
No,
fields.
Like a fifth of a mile?
Is that 3 football fields?
Oh, 5,000 feet's a mile,
Yeah.
not it's 1,700 yards or something like that.
That's
It's a-
right.
17.
So it's short. It's,
Yes.
Well,
Still 3 football fields.
Still 3 football fields
Yeah.
with a fabulous view.
Yeah, there you go.
2 golf holes.
my concern a little bit when I'm hearing asphalt, I understand we're doing it for the price.
Yes.
But is that right? I mean, it does make a smooth surface. Does that have to be redone more often than other surfaces?
I think that it would have a 10-year, 20-year longevity. I think that it would become part of our asphalt maintenance routine that we have within the district.
Because we're introducing impervious surface, do we have to have a drainage plan?
We are not introducing much impervious surface. Remember that that path already exists.
Oh.
It is already asphalt.
Got so, okay.
Mhm. Good question, though.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say, I thought both you and Amalia did a great job last night. I know that this is the right time to say it, but I thought you guys were amazing
You
at the
missed the
city
right
council.
time. 1 hour ago.
I've been waiting the whole meeting to say it, but.
Cal, may I
yeah.
interrupt you for a moment?
Yeah.
Under additions to the agenda?
Yes. It's covered. Oh, it was? Okay, I didn't look at the, you did a great job last night.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So that is it. We are going to proceed. We're waiting to hear back from the City of Highland Park. We are approaching Lake County Forest Preserve District with our letter that has been sanctioned by our attorneys in our hand, seeking consensus on this pathway so that we can bring this to a satisfactory conclusion.
And I think, thank you, and I think what you pointed out was that the trailhead, the northern trailhead, is designed so that if there is the opportunity to use the Highland Park Country Club property, that would be the connection to the trail.
Yes, that's correct.
You know, it is right. I guess that's right where almost near where the tee box is for that hole.
It is.
Because whenever I get up there, I always try to look
Oh,
and
yeah.
see.
It's a
'cause
great view.
It's a
So
really
many
cool
great
view.
birds
Yeah,
there.
it's a really
Oh,
cool view, and you're higher up, and
Yeah.
I could see why that would be a really cool. Because we're always trying to look through
Yep.
the bush there to see what it looks like. Because the first time we went up there, I didn't know what was over on the other side.
Yeah, that's
That-
so cool.
Yeah,
That's what we're
you don't
capturing.
know you're in Highland Park when you look out there.
I know. It's
Yeah.
really great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rebecca.
You're welcome.
Mr. Smith, 5-year capital plan review. This one I would have gotten wrong.
We'll just wait. All right, thank you very much for having me. I am here to review the 2018 capital plan. Now, on October 4th, we went through the plan with the Finance Committee. And just to kind of give a little explanation of the plan you're looking at here, this was created through a collaborative effort with staff across the district. What we'll do is look at the current plan, reassess needs, and then consult replacement schedules, maintenance schedules, and also explore new initiatives that we might want to include in the plan. And so that's what we have here. There are 2 documents. The first one is the summary, and so it's the one I have up on the screen here. For this document, just to give a little explanation, the first column is 2018, so that's going to be next year's budget, and then we have the following 5 years as well, so 2019 all the way through 2023. And this is broken up by area in the district, so the first section here is district-wide. When we get to the detailed version, I'll explain a little more what's in each of these, but there's district-wide, you have technology, and then following is broken up, areas budgeted for park, and then also budgeted at each facility, right here. Now, the one thing I do want to point out is that this replacement capital budget does not include Greenprint. That is budgeted elsewhere. So before I move to the detailed version, does anybody have any questions or comments on this one? All right, great. So here we go. So with this version, there are 2 more columns at the beginning. The first one here says 2017. This is what's currently budgeted in the 2017 capital budget. And then the column next to it are the projections we have for the end of the year. So what we're projecting to spend in each of these. So I want to talk a little bit about each section. I'm going to start here with the first one with the district-wide. So what this encompasses are things obviously that will touch the district as a whole as opposed to necessarily at a particular park. And I'm just going to pick a few items here to mention, but if you have any questions about any of them, please let me know. I'll start here with the one that says ADA transition plan. So for this one, you'll notice in 2018, it says there's $0 budgeted, but in the following years, we have monies budgeted. So what these are, In 19 and on, they're essentially placeholders for funds we anticipate to spend. But in 18, what we've done is we've broken them out on particular parks. We've identified projects that we're going to be spending them on. That's why you see that for some of them. And the same thing for the asphalt allowance below it. There's monies that are obviously budgeted for those, but they're within the detail down below in the particular parks for those projects. Any questions about anything in the district-wide?
I will note that the Finance Committee always goes through this with a fine-tooth comb.
I have no questions. I spent an hour on this.
I know.
Yeah, yes, we did. We went through this line by line.
Yes.
And there, yeah, so
You
I
don't?
just,
I know. They've heard all my comments.
Yeah, you gotta leave.
So then I'll just kind of move down here. So the next section here is technology. And this is also another one that's very much a district-wide area. And then we get into parks equipment. So for this section, most of this is developed through replacement schedules that we have. When we acquire a piece of equipment or a vehicle, there's a useful life number of years that's assigned to that item. And so we have schedules that we work off of. And then as those items come up, we don't simply just put them in the plan. We reassess them. We assess, their condition, and often they get moved. They may even be removed if we're not going to be replacing them. And so in the end, this is what we have for this year.
Can I just ask a question about our philosophy here? Again, this is the first time I'm witnessing one of these. In terms of equipment, such as this or any other kind of large equipment, do we have green standards or anything like that? That I know the city had a big push about replacing some of their vehicles with hybrids or electric vehicles or anything like that. Is that our philosophy? Do we have a written something about that? Or
Written, I'm not sure, but we certainly make efforts, and we have had a green vehicle, an electric, not hybrid vehicle, and the plan is, it's a vehicle that we actually currently don't have right now because the flood we were talking about today, we actually lost it in the flood. It was at the dealership being repaired, the dealership that was underwater. but it's we make efforts to.
when we replace, we look to see if it's either purchase or lease, and then what are the options in green. And with a lot of trucks, there isn't a lot of
Yeah,
technology
I bet.
that at this juncture. So, but we do, and we're actually going through our policy manual right now, so this might be a good thing to memorialize in the parks, so that we have a policy in writing about ensuring that people look at green options for vehicles and equipment replacement.
Yeah, Terry, one of the differences, the city has a lot of just cars.
yeah,
And you see they use a lot of the Priuses and those types of cars. We don't have those vehicles.
But you're correct. I mean, what they're doing, they're transporting people, whereas most of our maintenance vehicles are out
Doing
for more
stuff.
significant work.
We work for a living.
Everybody works. All right, so now this goes down into specific parks. Oh, I went a little far here. So I wanted to point out here, if you take a look at Brown Park for 2017, you'll see the first item here was playground resurfacing and equipment improvement. And that's something that we just completed. And so you'll see in the second column that we were pretty close to budget there. But then if you go down the next few items where it says tennis court grinding, there's a tennis fence replacement and ADA patio replacement. All of those, according to this, it says that there was no money budgeted this year. However, we spent a significant amount. So I kind of want to clarify how to read this. Earlier on in the district-wide capital, I mentioned that we have some areas that are kind of a lump sum of money that we then allocate to projects. So this is a perfect example of that, where we have this asphalt allowance, where we'll have replacement schedules, and where certain courts come up for replacement, or we look at priorities for pathways and roadways and have those replaced. So that comes out of a general lump sum of money. And this year, those monies, a lot of the projects we did actually came in well under budget. We were able to rebid that and utilize more of those funds for basically projects we were going to do next year or still had a great need for. And so what you see here is those particular items weren't originally in 2017. However, they're part of that larger number. And you can't see it easily here, but actually the money we had allowed for asphalt, we're actually under budget this year still. And here we have Danny Kniff Park. I'm just going to roll through these. Kennedy, we're replacing the planning department and parks department have been really busy this year. We're working on planning a new playground at Kennedy Park, and that's going to be implemented in the spring. You'll see that here. Let me know if you have any questions about any of these.
Did we ever follow up with that guy that came about the fishing questions, Liza?
We did.
Oh, yes. We did.
Okay. 'Cause I just saw the fishing pond, and I was thinking about that. He said there were some comments that some of the grass had grown so big you couldn't even cast.
I think that a
We do.
phone call was made to him within the next day or two following the meeting to,
Was, and we
Fish.
took care of that area too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
A good memory.
It just sparked me.
Then we're on to Rosewood Beach. And I will point out, you can't miss this, the highlighted area here. This is, in regards to Rosewood Beach, we have the ravine that was reconstructed near the Interpretive Center building. And that's an area that we are putting funds into doing some repairs and upkeep of that. It's blank here because we're still waiting back for our quotes on that.
Is the bluff staircase rebuild, is that a thing?
Yeah, so the other thing I didn't point out, and you'll see it in the bottom line, as if you look at like 2017, and you'll look at the projected, you'll notice the numbers are a little lower. As we go through the year, there may be projects that the timing isn't right, or we reevaluated or move them. And so there are projects from time to time that will re-budget to a following year, and that's one of those projects. I'm reading, yeah, there it is. Where we were originally planning to do it this year, but now we have moved that to next year. What that is if you're in the upper park,
Yeah.
the stairs that go down, there are some portions, primarily of the railing, it's concrete columns, that are starting to tilt. So we're going to go in and address those. And then there's some work on some of the stairs we're going to be addressing as
So
well.
this has nothing to do with the other stairway right, that's going to, isn't there another one?
This is
farther?
going from the parking lot.
Yeah, no, I
down.
get it. But
Yeah.
would there used to be another one?
That was,
There's one that
you
wraps
thinking
around
of Park
to the
Avenue,
north.
maybe?
Yeah. There's one at Park Avenue, but there's also the path that wraps around. to
No,
the
I got
ravine.
it. So
Yeah,
now I
Park
understand.
Avenue had a stairway that doesn't have one anymore. This one.
That's, okay.
Right.
I'm getting
This
this.
is not that stairway.
Got it.
If you weren't on the board, but when we approved Rosewood, we did the bottom part of the stairway, and we kind of deferred that later on, trying to save some money, and we just
Yeah.
basically, we kicked the can down the road a little bit, and then now we're redoing it.
So,
Great.
Jeff, in 2020 is when we're going to do this Sunset Woods redo?
Yeah, let me get back there. Right. So what you're seeing there, the 100,000, that's the planning phase of the project, and then the construction phase would be in green print.
Okay.
So generally speaking, planning in 2020, implementation in 2021.
All right.
All right. Then I'm going to go down. So that goes to the next section here, facilities.
All right, can you go back to Centennial?
Yeah, right there.
So that $100,000, Lori, that's for planning for Centennial. So then that's for construction 2019 then?
That's correct. So exactly
Yeah.
like Sunset. So in 2018, we're going to begin the planning process for what's in green print for Centennial, and then, yeah, you're correct. We'll start the project in 19.
Okay, good.
Actually, I'm going to point out a couple items in Heller Nature Center. So, Brian, you might enjoy hearing this. The outdoor
Am I getting my
climbing wall.
wall?
This is another good example of where we might reevaluate a project. So we had allocated funds for our climbing wall as an enhancement kind of to our Teams course program on the north end of the property. And staff, in the plan to start basically to build it, we're doing more investigation and reached out to others that had climbing walls. And in the end, really the recommendation was to probably not put in a climbing wall. They've found that it's difficult to program. And honestly, nowadays, people have so many options. You can go to a climbing gym, you can do so much worth of the wall, groups have to wait. So what staff have come up with, I think, is a great idea. It's actually, if you go up to the next one here, it says Team Course Additions. Well, what that is something called crate stacking, which is very similar experience, except, so you're someone's on belay, and they have a climbing helmet, and they have a harness on. But then you think of like milk crates, and it's literally stacking milk crates and seeing how high you can get. And there's a certain point where you can't pick them up off the ground, so they literally use like a pole with a hook and hand it to them. You can get like, 20, 30 crates high.
Really?
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So it's unique. And we really think it's something that will fit very well into the existing program there. And the other thing I want to point out with this is monies have been budgeted for some ADA improvements. First off, to make this new amenity accessible, but also we obviously the district as a whole works closely with NSSRA, but we've had several groups out to the Teams course. And so there's planning to create a way for a bus to drop off on the north end of the property where the course is and have like a little landing space and some of the elements a little more accessible. So groups, especially groups like in wheelchairs, they can go from the building up to the course, but it's on the far end of the property. So this is a way to accommodate those groups and hopefully bring in some more groups.
How big are the teams when they do that?
When we do it, it's recommended between like 10 to 15 people.
Can we do 5 people like the park board? Or
Absolutely.
Bonding thing.
we should
You
do it
should.
sometime. Let's do it.
It's great.
We should invite another park district.
Yeah, we'll have a competition. Okay.
What's the Deerfield? I hate those guys.
All right. And then, another one I want to point out is here with Hidden Creek. This is, I think, a good example of kind of the efforts that we went through when we do this plan, is really going through, taking quite a bit of time to assess what has been done, each facility, what needs to be done. There's a number of items that are being scheduled for next year and the next few years, but these are definitely necessary items to maintain the facility.
Is there going to be, going back to Hidden Creek, is there anything going to be done to mitigate the flooding that occurs in those parking lots? I know it's a lot of times when big rains, there's issues.
So we are repaving. We're repaving the lots.
Looks something, take a look at that. I mean, I know it's low in certain areas, but a lot of times after a big rain, some of that parking lot's unusable.
Are you talking about the water park?
Yeah.
Or is that-
Yeah, I know, it
That's
collects on that
low.
grass.
I mean, that's a collection area for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
There are some, this is an aside from this, but I will mention some areas in the district we're looking at, including there where there are turf areas where water's collecting, and we're looking at changing that and doing plans.
So is the stormwater management, is that spread over the entire district, or is there one budget for that?
There is, it's in the district-wide,
Yeah.
and the idea there is whether we identify projects or projects can come up throughout the year. And so I've already gone past it, but Danny Kniff, we are going to be redoing the tennis courts there. There's some major flooding issues with those courts. And so there are stormwater management monies budgeted next year to do some planning for that. So we're not just going to go in and repave the courts.
Okay.
We're actually going to address some of that.
Yeah, and also just to touch in on the district-wide master planning that we've got. So as we're doing these sub-plans that were called for in green print, athletic field maintenance, master plan, lakefront master plan, there's planning dollars here. And then we've also included some dollars in the capital plan for like field lights and some improvements at Park Avenue. So we're introducing them into the master plan as well, or into the capital plan.
And then here for Sunset Valley. Sunset Valley's majority of this, it's similar to the parks section we saw at the beginning, where we have scheduled replacements on equipment. And that brings us to Westridge. And then here at the bottom, there's a little list. These are projects that have been identified by staff but are currently not budgeted. So these would certainly be projects we would consider next year when we're doing this budget, or it may be projects that we still aren't able to fund, but it just kind of also identifies a number of projects we're looking to do. Anybody have any questions?
Ernie? I'm just gonna go down the line. No? Thanks, Jeff.
Great,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much, I
Thank you very much.
appreciate it.
It's not time for public comments yet,
Thanks,
Mr.
Jeff.
Bernstein. I
We're
didn't
gonna do
hear-
the vouchers.
I want an adult playground with slides and with teeter totters that get backs and something that, you know, ADA accessible and even a sandbox.
Okay.
Wow.
If I could just say one thing also on the capital plan, this was the first year that Jeff was really overseeing the plan, and I think that there is a lot more, meat is not the right word, but there was really a lot more evaluation that was done, obviously for immediate needs, but really looking at the next 5 years so that we can put a more accurate funding model together. So that there were some areas, Hidden Creek is a good example of a place that there was some oversight and missing of some areas that are going to need improvements, replacements. We also have a new, well, he's not so new anymore, but we've taken Alan from the pool, or from the rec center, and then one of our maintenance guys who does HVAC, and the two of them have been doing a nice job of evaluating some of that type of equipment. So we have a better look and we have a better plan for the future in terms of some of those repairs that we may not be as familiar with, but these guys were able to zero in. And with the guidance of Jeff and meeting with everyone, I just think that there's more depth in years 3, 4, and 5 than what you might have seen in previous years. And of course, we assess every year. We go through the same drill with you. So I just think this is a really comprehensive plan, probably one of the best we've had.
Yeah, I've just mentioned for Terry, you know, when I first got on the board, really, we only had was a one-year plan. And they would just throw out numbers for years 2 through 5. It wasn't even thought out. And through this administration, through our staff here, we've evolved to where now we have a really comprehensive 5-year plan that we can rely on that didn't exist 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. It was just done on an annual basis, and it was done on an ad hoc basis. So a lot more planning and a lot more thought is going into creating these 5-year plans than ever. And each year it gets better. So it's
Well, I could see it.
Yeah.
You know, and the budget shows our priorities, and and I could see it. I just, you know, not coming from that world, I can just imagine the work it took to create it, and the, you know, kind of the fine
It's a
tooth
nice
comb you go
yeah.
through with it. I mean, I have to do it on a smaller basis, and it gives me a headache. So.
Yeah, but it's nice to have everybody working together, and then we bring everybody together to look at the plan so that everyone can appreciate that if their needs aren't being met this year, it's because we had higher priorities. So we involve everyone, and it makes life easier, decision-making easier for all of you and us.
Nice job, Jeff. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Finally, review of vouchers.
Okay, the bills presented for the board's review this evening are checks written from September 22nd through August 6th, and they total $1,793,242. They are budgeted ordinary expenses. There's nothing extraordinary or unbudgeted in there.
And I went through the list, and nothing jumped out at me as anything to question.
The same. Okay, thank you. Open to the public to address the board. There are many members
You're
of
not
the public.
talking about the meeting last night?
No. We'd rather not. Did you enjoy yourself last night?
No.
Brian?
I just want to know if she had a good time last night.
No, I thought that
We were talking.
I don't think this is appropriate. This is not appropriate.
very disorganized meeting.
Why is it not appropriate?
There was
Wait.
Should we be commenting on the meeting last night?
It was open session.
It was an open meeting.
Yeah.
With the public there, and Ms. Mercy's a member of the public who was there.
She sure is.
Mom.
I don't know if the Bernstein name is a good idea.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a motion to go into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Open Meetings Act?
I so move.
Second.
He didn't even have a chance to read the sections, though.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein? Commissioner Flores Weisskopf? Aye. Commissioner Grossberg?
Aye.
Vice President Rundberg?
Aye.
President Kaplan?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned at 7:28.
Thank you, everyone.